Hello, everybody. How are you guys? If you could hear me, go ahead and just type in the chat box for attendance that you are here. So if you could hear me, type here. That way I know my stuff is working. Good, good. Daniel hears me. Excellent. Jeffrey is here. Very good. Kaylin, nice to see you. Mia, hello, Mia. So Teresa, can you hear me, Teresa and Helene, if you can? I think Helene was here. And Ying, if you can, just type in the chat box so you could hear me. Just because Zoom's been having some issues, at least some of my sessions have, in terms of microphones, and my microphone, that is. All right, excellent. Good, good. So we only have two sessions today. We have this one, and I kind of am predicting that the noon one will kind of be the more populated section. But I know there are some students that are still coming in. So we'll kind of just do our check-in, and then we'll get right to period 4. Welcome, Jessica. Jessica, this type here. Good. Jesse is here. So if you guys are just coming in, Wei Kwan, excellent. But let's do our check-in. How's everything going this week? How are classes going? Give me something positive that you were able to do this week. And then, yeah, just overall, how's everything going? Um, so, any volunteers? Anyone want to kind of just share? Just hit the raise your hand button, just because it is always nice to hear your voices and get some interaction rather than just seeing things in a group chat. But someone check in. How are you doing? As well as one positive for the week, and also how are your classes going? Anyone want to share? If not, I'll call on someone random. Right? I always like seeing the raise your hand button. Um, let's go with Angel. I haven't heard Angel's voice in a while, Angel. So how are you doing? And just tell me how your classes are going, how you're doing personally, and one positive.
What it do, mister? I'm doing good. Well, my classes, I'm starting kind of to like lag a little bit because like it's all kind of like starting to add up. I'm getting a bunch of Spanish homework, a bunch of A push stuff. So it's all like really starting to pile up. So it's getting hard to stay on top of it, but I'm doing pretty good myself. You?
Um, I'm doing pretty well myself. Just yeah, I'd say what is this now? More than a month and a half in. I mean, I have my rhythm, have my routine, but you have your ups and downs. I mean, being in front of a computer is quite fatiguing, especially on days I don't have Zoom sessions. The days go by quicker when we're on Zoom sessions. If I'm just going through and grading and lesson planning, things tend to take a little bit longer, but things are going well. I mean, I'm very positive. So I'd say for me, one huge positive was one of my seniors sent me a track video that she made for the track team. And kind of just really kind of brightened my mood a little bit. Made me really miss just working at the school, seeing you guys, and putting the hours in, whether it is teaching you guys an A push or whether it's coaching track. So I kind of just can't wait to get back to that when we do get back to it. So that's one big positive. So it motivates me to go out there and run because I'm training for absolutely nothing, but I just enjoy going out and exercising. So thank you for asking. Anyone else want to share how everything is going? Let's go with Daniel. So I haven't heard from Daniel in a while. So Daniel, how's everything going? Oh, there you go.
Things are going good. I think that like with this week, my workload has gotten a little less.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's good. But I kind of miss being at school
Mm-hmm.
because then like I start to procrastinate a lot with my work.
Mm-hmm.
But at least like, yeah, so I just tend to like, without like going back to school, I tend to procrastinate most of my work.
Mm-hmm.
But now I made like a schedule and I'm following it.
Yeah, that's very good. I think that's very important. Thank you for sharing, Daniel. And I think that one sign of a lot of maturity on your part is just being reflective on that, right? And that's what I think it's very powerful about. I mean, this class that I have. I mean, you A push students is that you're all very reflective. Not all kids are like that. I'll be honest. Not all kids. Some kids are just like, whatever I'm going to do, what I'm going to do, and it is what it is. But the fact that you could just openly say, "Hey, I've been procrastinating and I'm setting myself a schedule," I mean, that's those are some of the signs of a successful person. So I'd say that's in some ways a positive, a very strong positive. Thank you for sharing, Daniel. Let's get a few more, and then after that, we'll get to our pacing, and then we'll work through kind of a DBQ. Jessica, can you share for us? So we'll go Angel afterwards.
Hello.
Hello, hey Jessica.
Hi. How are you doing?
Good. From the mug you gave me.
I know. I've been seeing you drink it. I'm like freaking out. Okay. I'm doing okay. I can tell that I'm kind of getting a lot more anxious than I was before when we had school. And I think it's just because of my like lack of social interaction with people face to face. But like other than that, I'm doing okay. One positive thing that I have been doing this week is I've been chatting with like my friends, like my friends like Angel and Axel. They got me into this game called Fortnite, and so I've been playing so much with them. And like I would make fun of them for playing, but I've actually been having fun. I don't even think it's just a game. I think it's just talking to them like brings me a lot more joy. But yeah, I think that's how my week my week has been. When it comes to work, I could tell I'm kind of falling a little behind, but that's just because I'm really bad at, scheduling myself and pacing myself. I'll spend too much time doing something and I get super bored and like not feel motivated to do something else. But I'm trying to work on that slowly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very, very good. So thank you for sharing. I think that's one positive is really looking at just trying to find ways to be social with one another. So maybe one of the things that we'll do is I downloaded. I don't know if you guys have heard of Jackbox TV, but it's just a series of games, online games that I think you could play up to like 8. So maybe one of the things that we'll do is I don't know. I gotta see how many people could play in it, but maybe we'll organize a game night. With it just we'll have a couple sessions of it. Whoever wants to play, we'll play. Is it inappropriate, Helene? Oh, if it's inappropriate, if it's inappropriate, it can be okay. All right. So what I'll do is I'll go run through the games that I do have to make sure that it is appropriate. It can get wild. All right. Oh, maybe we won't play that, but maybe we'll find that if someone can suggest a game that we could play that it is appropriate, then maybe we'll organize like just an AP game day. That way we get some interaction because I think that is a big part, right? Angel, Angela, can you kind of share how everything is going?
I feel like lately I've been really, really busy, right? Because I do have like elections coming up and my AP tests, but I like yesterday I was like, no, I cannot like procrastinate anymore and I have to get my things together. So I set myself a schedule and right now like I'm gonna stick to it because AP testing is coming and I'm gonna be like I'm gonna sleep at 12, I'm gonna wake up at 8 because I feel like when I wake up really late I feel really unmotivated to do things, so it makes me like tired throughout the whole entire day. So when I wake up earlier I feel like I'm gonna be able to set myself a schedule. So I have 2 positive. Like a positive one is I got to talk back to like my old group when I was a freshman. Like I used to hang out with sophomores a lot, and a lot of them moved schools. So one of my friends' birthday was this week, so we all like FaceTime each other, caught up, and that was really nice because it was just like these are like mostly all seniors and they're gonna go off, and like it's really nice hearing their voice and catching up again. And then also like I've been like able to study more for like calculus, and like yesterday I was able to sit down and watch like one of the AP US like college board videos, and I felt like it did help a lot. So like I'm gonna start like doing that more and more throughout like this whole entire week until like AP's testing. So I feel like it's more productive, like getting there.
Great, good. Thank you for sharing. And I think that's something that's very important is set your schedule up. You definitely want to have a set schedule because otherwise you're gonna fall behind. But also, I recommend that you set a time for socialization in that schedule. Whether it's just texting people, or whether it's FaceTiming, or whether it's playing a game. Set something that you enjoy, because what's going to end up happening is you might go 1 or 2 days of being very productive, but if you don't give yourself, a break, then you're going to go perhaps 2 or 3 more days of not being productive. So set some time to do something that you really enjoy. I think that's very important to do. I mean, I've been, and don't think it's just you guys, I mean, I've taught to a lot of teachers. Some of us teachers fall in the same hole. I mean, last week, I think I worked my butt off Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And by the time I got to Friday, Saturday, Sunday, like I was just burnt. I ended up watching, I think on Friday, or no, on Sunday, like I wanted to get up and do work, but I was just so tired. I ended up just watching The Last Kingdom on Netflix for literally like 8 hours. I mean, it's a nice history show. I was totally nerding out. I loved it. But at the same time, I'm like, dude, I gotta just get some work done. But it's just because sometimes if you work too hard in a given time and don't give yourself a break, you're gonna fall apart. So make sure you're having that self-care. Find ways, play games, FaceTime, whatever you could do. Even if it's just reading a book that's non-academic, something that you want to do that you enjoy. Make sure that you do. Take care of yourselves. So, are there any questions for me? If there are no questions, just type no, and then I'm going to move on, look at our pacing schedule. All right. Very good. Thank you, guys. Thank you very much. So let's take a look at the schedules. And remember, everything is on that same document, that quarantine speech document. I do make changes to it, though. And the changes that I make are very much relevant to student motivation, as the work that I'm getting in. And also, I'm going to continue doing those AMSCO readings. It's up to you if you want to listen to them, if you want to do those questions. But let me go through that. I'm going to continue recording them because, number one, it keeps me up to date. It makes me a stronger teacher when I have to then review this content with you guys. Because although I know all the content, one thing is just being able to recall and make sure that I'm lesson planning with the appropriate reviews. So let's go through the schedule. So here we are today. We are over here today. So today, we have our Zoom session. There's only 2 Zoom sessions today because I have a meeting at 2:00. What you want to make sure that you're doing this week is you should have done. So today, what we're going to do today in our Zoom session is we're going to do a practice DBQ together. We'll go through the documents together. I'll give you some time. We'll discuss. I'll have you type in the chat box. That way I could give you some informal feedback. I'll just verbally say, hey, this is a good interpretation of the document. However, you might not be tying it back to the question. In fact, if you turn in a DBQ, go back, take a look at all the feedback I provided you. The DBQs, for the most part, there were a lot of students that were scoring 8 through 10s on there, which is excellent. However, for the students that scored below an 8, one of the things that I noticed was just not tying it back to the thesis. They were describing the document and they weren't necessarily explaining how it supports a thesis, So make sure you do those things. Sourcing statements, I recommend using those questions, those sources, the starters, right? Set the starters, because already right away I was able to kind of see, this is it. This is what they were trying to do. They were trying to do historical context, author's purpose, audience. So those are some general feedback that I've noticed. So we're going to finish up today. All this week, we're going to review period 4. We're going to do a practice DBQ today. But what you want to do is go ahead and just make sure that you start reviewing period 5 this week, because next week we're going to do some period 5 DBQ practices. If you're someone that learns better through the readings and writing things down, then continue. Do chapter 12 through 15 in the AMSCO book. I will record it. I can't promise that it's been very difficult because it is time consuming for me as well, because I've got to stop, record, upload, sometimes YouTube and my internet breaks down. But I will go ahead and continue to read 12 through 15 for you. I'll try to space it periodically, but the latest I'll have it is by Monday. So, but I'll try to periodically space it out, right? I'll always upload it automatically up to Schoology, so you should get a notification. If you maybe are more visual learner, Joe's Productions and Adam Norris, here's a link to the period 5. I'd say take notes on it. If you want to earn points for it, then just upload and send me an email. I had a student that just rather than doing an AMSCO, they watched the video and they took notes, and I'm going to give them credit for it. So that's another option that you could do. right? Or if you're just running out of time, but you like the AMSCO book, then look at the AMSCO chapter videos, which you're using right there. You could either take notes on that, and even for these readings, guys, if you don't want to do the study guides, but you just want to take notes on it, just give me evidence that you've done some reviewing, and I will still give you credit for it, right? What I'm afraid of, though, is that some students aren't doing the reviews at all, and then we're going to get to, the AP test May 15th, and you're not going to be able to recall this information. So just make sure that you are being active, reviewing, because if you've taken AP Psych, it's the spacing effect, serial position effect, that you want to space out that studying over time, because if you cram, you're not going to remember that information, right? Which was, if you're taking AP Psych, that was actually one of the free response questions last year. Sorry, completely nerding out right now, off topic. But those are some things that you want to do. Zoom session, I'm still going to give you credit for these Zoom sessions. So, just to keep you motivated, keep attending these sessions, show me evidence of your work. It keeps me positive, right? To know that, hey, these kids are still really, they care, that they're, maybe not too overwhelmed, that they still want to do well and they push, that they want to learn, they're intrinsically motivated, right? But yeah, that's for this week. Any questions at all about assignments for this week? I'm not done, sorry. Thursday. So when we get to Thursday here, there is no Zoom session. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put up a DBQ. I'll put it up on Schoology, and I want you to. I want everyone to attempt this. This is mandatory. I haven't decided if I'm actually going to put it on Schoology for you to do, so the timer is set, or if I'm just going to upload the documents. But I want you to go ahead and do this period 4. It's going to be period 3 and 4, sorry. DBQ. I want you to try it for time, because I've talked with numerous AP US history teachers, and they've said that the biggest difficulty that students are having is doing it for time. So what I will do is, I haven't decided if I'm going to do it on Schoology, or what I'm going to do is just give you the docs, and you will have to time yourself. But I want everyone to do this DBQ, right? I'll put it up the latest by tomorrow, and I want you to get this done by Sunday, right? I recommend using that Thursday because that's our normal Zoom meeting time. But do that DBQ and just use it as a mock, and turn it in, and I'll give you feedback on it, right? And I want to see how well you're going to be able to do with that 45-minute time limit, because I've talked to a lot of teachers, and they're saying that kids that were scoring 8 through 10s, their grades significantly kind of just went down because that time limit is the toughest thing. So that's all. I want everyone to attempt it. I mean, it's only going to take you 45 minutes. Even if you're struggling, you're looking through those documents, and you're like, crap, like I don't know any of this, but at least attempt it, because you could still earn some points, right? And you might surprise yourself, right? I mean, originally I told you the threshold was 5 or 6, you'll get a 3, but there are some teachers that are saying they're predicting that threshold might be lower. So go out there, control what you could control, do the best you can, and the good thing is you get used to that experience of writing in a 45-minute block, because that's everything. We don't want you to take that test May 15th and be like, holy crap, I'm only in my intro, all right? So let's have that done. I'd say have that done by Sunday. I'll leave the window open, but everyone do it. Everyone attempt. I want to see 100% submission rate. I mean, shoot, even if you only get an intro in, at least I can give you feedback in that intro, right? Questions at all about that? If there are no questions, type no. I recommend for that DBQ, do what you want to do for the AP exam. So if you want to type it out. If you want to handwrite it, all right? So I made you guys a cheat sheet. It's not really a cheat sheet. It's just called a references guide. I will go ahead. So this is all on Schoology, and I want you to have this open as we're going through the Zoom session. So I'm going to go ahead and share it with everybody. It is on Schoology already. I'm going to put the link here in the chat box. So go ahead. Yes, this is the holy document. This is the holy document. I love this document. Open this up. So this is the periods in a nutshell. I mean, there's definitely more information that's here, but this is kind of like the most important information for your exam. All right. So give you guys some time to open that up. Or if you want, you can look at my screen. Right, it might be easier for you to look at my screen, but we are going to come back and use this document. So let's take a look. So here's what I recommend. When you guys are working, it might even be beneficial for you to print this out if you want to make notes on it, but these are the key terms that you need to know. So what I've done here for you guys is this is split up into different eras, right? So you have here, era 1 to 2. This could be used for context only. You do not want to use, so here you have the time periods and themes, right? So remember I told you that what you want to make sure that you can do in your contextualization is mention previous time periods. Here's what you have here. I want you to be aware though that all these key terms that I have in this column, do not use this as content. All these periods 1 and 2 terms, era 1 and 2, do not use for content. They're not going to go ahead and give you credit for it, because the content that you use has to be within the corresponding period of the questions. Any questions on that? No questions, type no. Very good, thank you, Carolyn. So here's what we have. These are all the period 3 themes. Last week we talked about the French and Indian War, tensions between Great Britain and the government, American Revolution, creating a new nation, right? So here's where we are today. And here's what I recommend that you guys do. The moment you get your DBQ, when you take your test, automatically look at the eras that it's corresponding to, right? So for this week, we're going to look at era 4, right? And what this cheat sheet does is this reference chart allows you to do. It allows you to kind of break down the time period that's focused on, but as well as the vocab words that you could tie in either as contextualization or vocab words that you could also use for your outside content. So for example, if my question is on the market revolution was on the Shark Tank activities that you guys did. One of the things that you're able to do is, you might want to provide contextualization. You might discuss, for example, the things that happened prior to this. Prior or during the time of the market revolution, the Louisiana Purchase was put in place, which America had purchased all the land west of the Mississippi, or up to the Mississippi, for a price of $15 million from Napoleon Bonaparte, right? Through this, it was essential that Americans were able to find a means of transportation, which led to the development of railroads, canals in the market revolution. Bam. But you see what happened here is I went ahead and for my contextualization, I used all of these terms here that we see, right? So, already we see Louisiana Purchase, railroads, canals. So use this. Or what you could also do is use some of this for outside content. Remember, you get 2 additional points. If I'm going through my documents in Market Revolution and I see that steamboats aren't mentioned or the Erie Big Dam Canal is not mentioned, bam, you could go ahead and use that. So this is a nice cheat sheet, but just be aware though. This isn't everything, but this is kind of the big key concepts. Questions about this? So this is the holy grail of vocab terms. You could use more, but like I said, this is just the minimum, okay? So have this document open, because what we're gonna go ahead and do is we're gonna just do some a practice document analysis on period 4. The purpose for this is it allows us to work on tying things down to a thesis and your claims, working with documents, but it also allows us to, for me to give you feedback and use this document, right? So here is the practice DBQ. I will share this with you guys as well, so if you want to open up the window, but I also have this open. Let me, bam, there it is. So what we'll do through this is I'm going to have you type things out, but also just to get you some social interaction, just to have you kind of I want you to talk, right? I think that's very important to talk. So remember, you get total time, 50 minutes for this DBQ, 45 minutes of work, 5 minutes of upload time. So I'm going to skip all of this, but this is, remember how you were scored, all right here. So here's our question. Here is our question. And I'm going to be reviewing content as well as I'm discussing this. So while some may consider the period of 1803 to 1824 the era of good feelings, other historians consider the time a time of increasing sectionalism. Explain the causes of increasing sectionalism during the time of 1803 to 1824. Elijah, great question. This is not the one that's due Sunday. The one on Sunday will be a different one, right? This is just a practice one. So let's break down this question because I think it is important to review for content. Can someone explain to me why that period of 1803 to 1824 is called the era of good feelings? Go back in your notes if you want to look at the AMSCO, whatever it might be. If you just want to take a guess, excellent, very good. You guys are so bright. Helene and Daniel say there is no political parties, right? In fact, we are only getting one political party. What is that name of that one political party? What would that be? And what would be the name of it? Excellent, Carolyn. You guys are so bright. It would be the Democratic Republicans, not the Democratic Republicans, the Democratic Republicans. Very good, very good, very good. You guys are great. However, while some historians consider this just one political party, other historians would consider this a time where it's not necessarily an era of good feelings. Although we are getting one political party, were they really just one political party? Did they agree on everything? Did they agree on everything? No, they did not. Carolyn, because I want to hear your voice, can you kind of explain to me what were some things that they may have disagreed about?
So the Democratic Republicans were kind of split along geographical lines. So the Northerners favored more of like the tariffs, the protective tariffs, while the Southerners did not. And that's like one example of like something they both disagreed on.
Yes, very good. So that's one thing is tariffs, tariffs, tariffs. Excellent. Remember the South, they were against the tariffs, while the North and Middle colonies, they supported those tariffs. They were totally for taxing British goods and buying American goods. Thank you very much. What are some other things that they may have disagreed upon? Anything else? Yeah, excellent, Daniel. Daniel, is your microphone working? Would you like to share? I want to hear your voice as well.
Yeah, it's kind of obvious with this one because the South had its entire economy like built upon slavery, while much of the North had been abolished as a result. And this era, the 1824, one of the big problems of sectionalism was the 1820 Compromise, basically. And like the South was wanting to expand slavery into the new Western territories as a result of the Louisiana Purchase. But the North basically kind of also did not want to have slavery expand. So growing sectionalism because of how to deal with expanding slavery, basically.
Yes, excellent. Very good. Expanding slavery. So remember the South, right? They're a plantation economy, the middle and the North. I mean, although they're agricultural, they still depend on manufacturing. And what invention are we getting during this time? Type it in the chat box. That is really expanding slavery, Yes, the cotton gin. The cotton gin. Steam engine, yeah, I mean, that's one part of it, but the cotton gin would be the big one by Eli Whitney. So what I'd like you guys to do right now is, actually, before I do that, what do we mean by sectionalism? Because that's a term that we need to make sure we define. What does that definition mean, sectionalism? What do you think we mean by that? What does that mean, sectionalism? Yeah, excellent, Mark. Loyalty to a region rather than as a country as a whole, right? Parties divided by section of the country. So rather than saying, hey, I'm loyal to the Union of the United States of America, I'm more loyal to the South or to the North. So what we have to do here is explain the causes of this increasing sectionalism using these documents. So what I'd like you guys to do is right now, go to this sheet right here. Bam. Our references sheet, and I want you to write in the chat box and just write down which concept, maybe which time period or which vocab word would you use for contextualization, and be ready to share why. Be ready to share how this would connect to that question, to the era of good feelings or to sectionalism. So I'll repeat that. Look through this cheat sheet, type what you would use for contextualization and just briefly explain, you can either type it or maybe I'll call on you, how this ties into our question, the connection. So go ahead, I'll give you guys some time to do that. I'll play some music. So I want everyone to participate. So even though I might get like 5 people share right away, I'll give you some time. So we'll listen to some music. We'll listen to some Metallica. I put a 90s music playlist. So here we go. This is my wife's favorite band when she was little. Yeah. Just make sure you're ready to share how or why, how we can connect. So keep it in mind. Sexualization. Some responses to the article. Every day for something new. Open mind for a different view. And nothing else matters. All right, right there. I've never actually really listened to that song much in depth, I'll be honest with you. So let's take a look at this. So what terms that we use? So I'm just going to call on some people. Excellent. Thank you guys for sharing. What would you use? Which terms and how does it connect? Let's go with Ying. Can you kind of just share for me? What would you use and how would you connect it? You guys, some of you guys went way above and beyond. Thank you very much for writing a whole paragraph. Very good. So
One
go for it.
I would use for contextualization with the Louisiana Purchase, or because I was thinking about like westward expansion, because that was like one really big thing that brought like sectionalism between the North and the South, like fighting for land and like on slavery and deciding if it was like a free or a slave state.
Yeah, definitely. So you could definitely use that the Louisiana Purchase. So, prior to, or, I would even say during, right? During the era of good feelings, you would say Thomas Jefferson was able to purchase the land, west of the Mississippi River, to increase the territory of the United States by 1/3, right? Or more than double, I would say. I got to look at the statistic, which in turn would lead to increasing sectionalism, right? And then you define what sectionalism is. Yeah, that would definitely work. But just be cautious. You can't use Louisiana Purchase later on again. Good work, Yang. Let's have some other people share. Let's volunteers. What else would you use? Let's go Wei Kwan. What else could you use? Oh, you there, Wei Kwan?
Yeah. Can you hear it?
Yes.
I think I would use like bank war, because then like, if I remember correctly, there started being like divisions between like political parties because of like the different ideologies regarding how like banks should be run, and whether or not like foreign investors had too much control, or like whether or not like the banks are too powerful or something like that. And I think that led to like sectionalism.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's what I would use.
Yeah, definitely. So as long as you use it to introduce the concept of sectionalism, right? You could say talk about issues within the bank, right? That would definitely work. Yeah, very good. Anyone else want to share? So I'll go through some of these. So Pauline says, during the time after the presidency of Jefferson, the battle for political power was between the Federalists and Democratic Republicans. After going to war with 1812, the Britain and the U.S. had established themselves in the world, while the Hartford Convention would seal the Federalist fate of fading away. The death of Hamilton would also add to their downfall. This would result in the one time where only one party ruled. Yes, very good. You've connected it to the era of good feelings. You've given me very in-depth vocabulary terms that are also defined. Excellent. So Jesse says Clay's American system. Henry Clay wanted to increase revenue, passing high tariffs in North and South due to being manufacturers. The South will be hurt by it. Yeah, just make sure, though, that you connect it to the time period of the era of good feelings, right? But excellent. And remember, I think Clay's American system, I got to double check. It might be something that's mentioned. So we just have to be cautious for that, right? Kaylin brings up the era of good feelings. The War of 1812 served as a dividing factor as the Democratic Republicans and those who supported them, including the War Hawks, whom all strategy wanted in fighting the war, compared to the Federalists in New England, where they had weirder fighting because they believed it would harm their economy even further. The grievances were vocalized at the Hartford Convention, excellent, but with Jackson's sweeping victory against the Seminole Indians near Florida, the Federalists died off as being unpatriotic in the face of the American victory. Very good. So that's good content. You would just need to make sure then that you would tie that in, right, to the question, and making sure that there's that clear, relevant statement. Could you use the Monroe Doctrine? Yeah, you most definitely can. I mean, the Monroe Doctrine falls in right before the era of good feelings, or right around there. So you would just need to make sure that you could explain how it connects to that, right? So Paul, the Embargo Act of 1807. Yeah, you could bring that up. You could bring in that Embargo Act of 1807 specifically because that's going to go ahead and lead to some of the tariffs that will be passed later on, right? If you were to talk about the Embargo Act of 1807, you would say, as a result of not being able to buy manufactured goods from Great Britain and France, middle and northern colonies would go ahead and start to develop factories, right, which would increase American manufacturing, right? So yeah, that would definitely work. Yep, which would lead to the tariff of abominations, which we'll discuss. Paul. So can you share what you said, Paul? Torres, you there? Okay, mic is broken, no problem. So Paul said the Enlightenment, I believe, right? So you could bring that up. However, what I recommend that you do is this. So look at the time period of the question, right? So let's say, for example, our question is focused on the era of good feelings. So the era of good feelings would be roughly around here, 1800 to 1816. So you could even bring it up, kind of going within that Jacksonian democracy. So what I recommend that you look at, right, is you don't want to go too far back, right, or too far after. So look through these. So after you read through the documents, a couple things you want to make sure that you do. Number one, make sure what you use for contextualization does not fall in the evidence that you would like to use, whether it's in the documents or outside information. So let's say, for example, if I would like to use the Louisiana Purchase as evidence in my essay, make sure you do not use it for contextualization, right? Does that make sense? If that makes sense, type yes. Very good. What I also recommend is that you do not go too far forward or too far back. So cognitively, what I'm doing is I'm looking this age of, it falls in 1800 to 1824, right? That question. What I'm not going to do is I'm not going to go too far back and bring up things that are going all the way up to Enlightenment or influences. That just is, although a grader might score it, it's not necessarily going to be strong contextualization. At the same time, you're also not going to go back to, bam, 1898 Gilded Age, right? Or 1945 World War II. That's just too far back. Just be cautious, though. It is very likely they're going to ask you a question that falls in numerous time periods. So you will have some. So I'll repeat that they might ask you a question that's going to fall within numerous time periods. So you would have to be flexible with contextualization. So they might ask you, compare and contrast American foreign policy from the years of 1800 to 1900, right? And then so you have a variety of things to choose from that. Questions, comments, concerns? Any more? Nope. All right, well, if something does come up, make sure you ask. But here we go. So let's start looking at our documents now. So if you go back to these docs, I'm actually just going to give you guys time to work on this. And everyone works at a different pace, but I'm going to we'll go 5 minutes of work time, and then we'll bring it back to whole group. So what I'd like you to do for this, it might be helpful for you to write this in a separate doc. And then what I'll have you do is cut and paste your responses, or I'll have you share. We're not going to do this like an actual DBQ. What we're going to do instead is we're going to break this down so I can scaffold, and we could all kind of work through these skills together. So let's start off this. Explain how the document is a cause of increasing tension. And I think a better word would be sectionalism, right? Then what I also want you to think about is outside vocabulary that is kind of relevant to this. And then think about how you might be able to source it, right? So think about that. And you don't need to actually write this out like a complete DBQ unless you want to. But if you want to here we're kind of just looking at more of strategies, okay? So I'll give you we'll break this down in 5-minute increments. If you finish that first document, go on to the next. And then you finish that next document, go on to the next. But I'll check back with you every 5 minutes. I'm going to come back to a document, and then we'll discuss it. Right? So 5 minutes, I'll have you share your answers for document 1, and then after that, we'll discuss. Then we'll go on to document 2, 5 minutes. But feel free to move forward. But you'll be answering the same 3 questions. Are there any questions for me? All right, so I'll continue just to play some background music. If the music is distracting, you could just put it on mute, and then what I'll do is just be aware that when I bring you guys back, 5 minutes. So go for it. Go some Backstreet Boys. This is totally 90s.
When I say I want it that way, but we are two worlds apart. Can't reach to your heart when you say I want it that way. Tell you I ain't nothing but a darling. Tell me why ain't nothing but a mistake. Tell me why I never wanna hear you say I want it that way. And I'm so fire, no one it's too late, but I won't get that way. Tell me why it ain't nothing but a wrong. Tell me why it ain't nothing but a mistake. Tell me why I never wanna hear you say I want it that way. Now I can see that you're falling apart the way that it used to be. Yeah, no matter the distance, I want you to know that deep down inside of me, you are my fire, the one desire. You
Yeah, if you want to start posting your answers, go for it. Because we're about 3:57, so about one more minute. All right, so let's go back here to where is it? Where's my DBQ? There it is. Okay. So let's go through this. So I love this document because there's a variety of ways to kind of talk about this. So I'll have you guys sum it up first and then kind of just share how this could be a cause of increasing sectionalism. Thank you guys for putting up with the Backstreet Boys song. Fun fact about me is when I was younger, I always wanted to be in a boy band, but never made it. You know, my friends used to have singing bands and dance crews, but they never invited me. So, which is why I became a track athlete. So, fun fact about Burba. But anyways, let's go ahead and share some of this information that we have here. Yeah, I'll have a yeah. So let's go. I'm a solo boy band. You're right. I probably could be. No, I'm a terrible singer. You know, whenever I do karaoke, I like to think I'm good. So I'll have someone share what's going on and how does it prove it. Let's go Wei Shen.
Hello?
Hey, we can hear you.
Yeah, okay. So basically what this is saying is talking about how there's like the American system, and then the American system like really focus on like really high tariffs in order to like help the economy. But the thing is it's mostly helping the North, because the North was like focusing on like making manufacturing and like factories and stuff. So obviously the tariffs that helped them because it meant less competition for the North. But then it didn't really help the South on the other hand, because the South was focused on agriculture, and also the South like really focused on like also exporting their crops as well. And because of the tariffs, it also like hurt what they exported. So it mainly helps the North rather than hurt the South, which caused more like bitterness between the two areas, and thus that's like sectionalism.
Yes, very good. So that would score. I mean, the way that you phrased that would definitely score for the document supporting, right? So, I mean, you could look at here in document, I mean, you would say this in Henry Clay's speeches towards conference, he discusses the American system. And of course, you would kind of paraphrase here, but more importantly, tie this into how this is causing increasing tensions or sectionalism between the North and South. The North would benefit from this American system due to the increase in tariffs. However, the South would be very unhappy about it because there's going to be backlash towards them being able to export these goods to Great Britain and France, right? If we are tariffing their goods, they're going to go ahead and provide a tariff for ours. Excellent, Wei Shen. So just going through this, as long as you mentioned here, looking at your responses, tariffs, right? And also kind of just bringing in how this is increasing tension between farmers and as well as the manufacturing North and Middle colonies, that would score. Very good. So seeing a lot of responses here. Yep, very good. I'm scrolling here. Daniel's got it. Yeah, so Mia, so I'm going to look at Mia's response. So it says here the document is relevant to the era of good feelings by enacting Clay's American system in order to build federal subsidies for Americans' infrastructure as well as transportation improvements. So that would score for description, but remember, you'd have to tie that back into that question of if you were then to follow up, and you probably were going to, but ran out of time. But if you were to then say, this leads to increasing sectionalism because, then that would score if you had a valid reason, right? So Jennifer says tariffs were debated between the South and the North during the era of good feelings. Yeah. So if you were to bring this up, describe more in depth what happens in that document, but talk about the debate. Yep. Very good. Questions at all about that? Yep, Jesse, you got it. So I could see the reasoning. This increased sectionalism because the North had benefited from this due to the, yeah. So let's look at outside evidence. So, you know, because outside evidence, what outside evidence could we kind of just tie in here that's relevant to this? So looking at our sheet here. Yeah, the tariff of abominations, right? The National Bank of the U.S., right? The nullification crisis, right? The tariff of abominations. Remember, the South saw this as, and none of these documents later on bring up nullification crisis. So that was one that you could definitely bring up. This is a DBQ. Is remember, as a result of these high taxes, the South is very unhappy about this. So you're going to go ahead and get John C. Calhoun of South Carolina and say, hey, we will nullify. We choose not to follow this. And Jackson goes ahead and he enacts his force bill. And this is increased sectionalism because we are almost getting a civil war at this time, right? Questions? Yeah, bank war could definitely work, right? That was outside evidence. Yeah, and none of these documents deal with the bank war. So let's go on to the next 2 to 3 documents. If you are finished with those 2 to 3, very good. But let's go 5 minutes. I think these 2 documents could definitely work together. So give you guys some time, go through it, do the same thing. How is it increasing tension? And also let's think about sourcing, All right. Yeah. And we'll work more explicitly with sourcing later. This is kind of not as in-depth as it could be with it. This is more a supporting thesis. But I'll give you guys 5 minutes. Go for it. Here's some more AC/DC. All right. That was a little less than 5 minutes, but I do want to discuss this. So I'm seeing a lot of great things here. So let's look at these two documents here. We have one from Thomas Jefferson, and we also have another one from John Quincy Adams. So how does this show? Let's look at this first document. How can we use this document as an example of increasing tension? Or you could even, if you want to look at both of them, you most definitely can. Thoughts on this? Let's go, Jesse. Can you share? Oh, is your mic working, Jesse?
Hello?
There you are. Yep.
Yeah. So what document 2 is talking about is the Missouri Compromise, which divide will divide the union up to like 34 now I well it divided over some longitude, where in the north it's no slavery, and down the south it's more slavery. So this causes a division between them, between the two, allowing, and I don't know how to say this, but basically, Quince Adams like sort of predicted the the dissolvement of the Union, which led to the Civil War.
Yeah. So looking at both of these documents, what you would look at as for both of these is that you could bring up the Missouri Compromise. Both of these are dealing with Missouri Compromise. You'd want to make sure, though, that you'd use each of these individually, right? So here, of course, they're discussing how to deal with these tensions, right? Here you're getting a Jefferson, a letter to Congress, as well as you're also getting John Quincy Adams in his diary. So you would need to make sure that you were doing both of these documents separately, although they're both discussing how slavery is leading to increasing sectionalism, right? So the way you could approach this is, if my claim was in my thesis that one of the causes of increasing tension was the debate on the expansion of slavery, you could either put these two documents, you could do the document on Quincy Adams in a diary, right? Hip, then go ahead and explain, and then the next one, hip and explain, or you could do separate paragraphs of them separately, whichever is easier for you. Just make sure that you start off that paragraph with that claim. Don't say, in this document, you would have to say, an example of increasing sectionalism would be the debate over slavery. Then go ahead and present these documents. But both of these talk about that. So a couple things that I want to make sure that we discussed here is, I believe Wei Kwan brought up the 3/5, right? What do we mean by that, Wei Kwan? Can you share kind of just the 3/5 rule? What was it?
So the 3/5 rule was the rule that said that in the Senate and like the Congress or something like that, when they're counting the representation in the House of Representatives or something like that, the slaves would count as like 3/5 of the people, and then it would like give an advantage to the slave states because the slave states had like a lot of slaves, so it kind of like boosted their representation in like Congress, and then the North saw this as kind of like an unfair advantage for the South, so that also led to some sort of sectionalism and tension.
Yeah, let me ask you this: when was that decided? That
Like,
3/5 rule.
I don't remember.
Yeah. Yes, excellent. So that would be the Constitution. So this is a great question. I think, Carolyn, that you asked too is, Carolyn, your question is, can outside evidence be like the question of annexing Texas? So when you're using your outside evidence, you want to make sure that it falls specifically within this time period of the question, right? So it has to fall in 1803 to 1824. So you could not use that as outside evidence. If the question were to be over, so explain the causes of increasing sectionalism, right? I mean, and they didn't give the times for the years, then you could go ahead and use it. But however, what could you use that information as? What could he use it as? If you're going to bring up the 3/5 rule that was stated at the Constitutional Convention, how can we use that? Because that's still something, yes, excellent. So if you wanted to say during the Constitutional Convention, it was decided that slaves would be counted as 3/5 of a person, and then you were to present one of these two documents, right? And then discuss the issue of slavery, yada, 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 then yeah, and that could definitely be used as historical context. Questions at all about that? Could the Kansas-Nebraska Act or Bleeding Kansas be used? Daniel, you say no. Why not?
Because it's too far ahead. It's
Yeah.
like 1850.
Perfect. That would fall into the 1850s. So you could use that. I mean, that would even be, I mean, if you were to put contextualization as after, I mean, it's hard. I'm not a big fan of using context for after, right? It just, yeah, I would say I'm more of a fan of using during and prior. So, but yeah, that would not fall as outside evidence because it's too far forward, right? And for those of you that are bringing that up, I mean, hey, that's showing your expertise of content, because when I was going through this, doing my notes, I accidentally had that on there. Then I'm like, wait a minute, no, I got to look at the time frame of the question. So always make sure to use the scope of the question. Very good. So other things that you could use for sourcing, Helene brought up the corrupt bargain. You definitely could do that, as it brings up information on both Henry Clay, as it brings up information on John Quincy Adams. What other things could we use for sourcing in terms of historical context? What do you think? Or how else could we source this? Not just historical context, but in general. How else could we source this? What would be the easiest way to do so? Okay, yeah, you could look at point of view. You could definitely look at this. I mean, you could look at John Quincy Adams, right? If you, Daniel, you want to elaborate how you could use the point of view? Yeah, intended audience you could definitely use. What do you think? Did Thomas Jefferson own slaves? Yeah. So those are some things that you could bring up. So in Jefferson's letter to John Holmes, right? He writes, but it is important to acknowledge that he is a slave owner, right? So and then you just kind of elaborate on that, right? And because slavery is an issue, right? Usually John Quincy Adams is a Northerner. His view might be, yeah. So all these things are things that you could mention. Just make sure that your sourcing statements, they need to be more than one sentence, because what I got a lot of students would say is, so for example, Helene, and I know Helene would elaborate on this, but Helene would say Adams as a Northerner, but elaborate, why is that relevant to the question, right? If you were to argue that he is an individual that is looking to stop the expansion of slavery, right? Or, yeah, those are some things that are important. Outside information, for what else can we bring in then? Because this is a difficult one. So look at your sheet. What can we bring in? So if the issue was coming in and you're bringing up slavery, right? What else could we bring up in regards to slavery? If you look at this, is there anything else that falls within that time frame that we're looking at? Yeah, to Missouri Compromise. Yeah, because remember, everyone's wanting to move westward, right? You're getting expansionism, right? Yeah, Louisiana Purchase. You definitely could bring that up. As a result of the land that we purchased from France, this new land is available and states are applying for statehood. Yeah, very good. What else? Let me scroll down here. Ongoing. What about anything else? I don't think I do have it here, actually. Where is it? What about this? Although it says peak 1840s and 18, yes, excellent. Thank you, Daniel. That's exactly what I was looking for. Increasing my immigration, right? As a result of many Irish moving in. It says peak 1840s, 1850s. So this is still going on in the 1820s, right? So you could bring up, as a result of the increase of Irish immigrants, right? You're getting these immigrants wanting to expand westward, and they are applying. So as the growing population is increasing, the states are applying for statehood, which brings up the issue of adding these states, right? So very good. That would definitely work. Questions at all about that? Yeah, Irish Catholic, right? And kind of going through this is, remember during this time, just a quick content review. During this time, you're also getting a result of increased nativism, right? You're getting these Irish immigrants that are coming in. They're seen as new immigrants. They don't represent the Protestant views. So Catholics are extremely discriminated against. There's this fear that these immigrants, that they're going to go ahead and change the American identity, right? So those are things that you want to make sure that you understand, All right. Questions? All right, so let's go on to our next document, and then we'll call it a day. So look at our next two. Yes, and these are two quick ones. So I'll give you guys some time. When you get your documents, quick tip, you're only going to have one image. So the rest are going to be written, all right? So I'll give you some time, so go for it.
This is Emma. These are Allbirds wool lounges. They're made with natural materials like
Red Hot Chili Peppers.
take us from time to time to steal your constellation. Little girls come sweet and dream of silver screen quotation. And if you want these kind of dreams, it's Californication. It's the head of the world and all of Western civilization.
Definitely is.
Sun may rise in the east, at least it's settled in a final location. It's understood that Hollywood sells Californication. Hey, a Sergeant Barrow, while the break the spell of aging. Celebrity skin, is this your gender? Is that why you're waiting? First born unicorn, hardcore softcore. Dream of Californication. Dream of Californication. Everything I give a feather to the world in my very own constellation. Teenage guy with the baby inside, getting high on information. Find me a star on a boulevard, it's Californication. Space may be the final frontier, but it's made in a Hollywood basement. So big that you hear the spears sing songs off station to station. Alderon's not far away, it's Californication. Born and raised by love to praise, control of population. Everybody's been there and I don't need no vacation. First born unicorn, I go soft. Dream of California.
All right, so let's discuss. I love the comments. All right, so let's look at this document. So can I have someone describe it and explain how it supports that thesis? Because, yeah, let's take some guesses. Luis, how you doing, Luis? So what's going on here and how could we use it to support? This one is, document 4 is a tricky one. You there, Luis? Okay, I'll come back to you. Let's get an attempt here. Okay, no problem, no problem. Kaylin, what are your thoughts? Looking at document 4. Is your mic working, Kaylin? No problem. Yeah, no problem. It happens. Happens to mine. It's more awkward when it happens to the teacher than the student. So it's okay. Let's go. Let's go, Angel. Let's go. One of the angels. Angel A, want to take a shot at it?
Okay, sorry. There's like really loud construction, but I feel like the document 4 with the document 4 with the immigration one?
Yes.
It talks about how like the increase in immigration, but also like increase in increase in population, but also increase in immigration within like the Chinese or like the Irish, which shows that there was like an increase in nativism, which was like a way of like segregation, because then they're like, oh well, are you really getting the same rights as I am, because I'm like European and you're like another race.
Okay. So I love what you said. What you said would actually work perfect with sourcing. So if you were to put this in terms of historical context, right? If you were to say during the time of 1800 to 1820, there was a time of increased immigration of Chinese and also Irish immigrants, then discuss that. That would put in the context. But remember, we need to use this in terms of sectionalism, conflicts with North and South, right? So how might this lead to conflicts between North and South? What do you think? Conflicts between North. Yes, population power, right? Jobs, industrial power, right? Remember, most of these immigrants were moving to the north in the middle colonies, and they were working in factories, right? This is the time when you're getting Samuel Slater that's bringing in the factory system. And as a result of that, they're hiring immigrants at very cheap wages. So this is going to increase the political power of the North, because as we expand westward, they're going to want to use that land for manufacturing, while the South wants to use it for plantations, right? And this is going to increase that tension, because I want you to think about this, is if the North has more power, they're going to want to make these states free states, while the South is going to want to make them slave states, right? Does that make sense? Very good. So I want you to think about this. So now when we're looking at this chart right here, wow, we brought in this whole other topic now of the market revolution, right? So we can now talk about how the market revolution would increase sectionalism. How the market revolution would increase sectionalism. So now I want you to think about this. I'm going to go to my cheat sheet here, right? Market revolution. What is it? Bam, there it is. How do these elements maybe bring up, what term can we use here for bringing up sectionalism? I'm highlighting here. Which one of these can we bring up for increasing sectionalism? Cotton gins, right? Very good. The cotton gin, I think, would be the biggest one, right? The cotton gin would increase sectionalism because there would be the need for expansion of land, moving slavery, right? Because now all of a sudden it's easy to pick the cotton at faster rates, which would kind of kill the land, right? In the further east, southern east. So they will need more land westward to expand. Yes, the factory system, right? The North would prefer to use that land for manufacturing, right? Which will move westward, right? So would you need? Yeah, I mean, you definitely. Yeah, I mean, you definitely need more land, which would then lead to more slaves, right? And this would fall. Then this would still fall in within 1803 to 1824 time frame. Okay. Questions at all about that? So that's why this cheat sheet is so important, and what I recommend that you do. This is just the bare minimum, right? So if you're going through the videos or the reading, and you're like, "Bam, I love this term," but it's not on a cheat sheet, add it to the cheat sheet, right? I don't know. I don't know why I like using the word cheat sheet so much. You know, I mean, it's like such a 1990s term. Do your teachers still use the word cheat sheet, or am I the only one? Cheat sheet. I am the only one. It just sounds good. Cheat sheet, right? I'll try to come up with more holy documents. Separation versus state and religion, though. I don't know. Cheat sheet. I took an eye test today. Like I ran out of contacts. Another fun fact about Verba, I took optometry. I had to do a virtual eye test today. Not gonna lie, I cheated because they require you to stand 10 feet away from your camera, and then they supposedly measure how far you are. And I'm like, dude, this is not 10 feet. This is like 15 feet. But they said it was 10 feet, so I cheated and I used my cheat sheet and I moved forward, right? But cheaters never win. So when I get my contacts, my prescription's going to be off. Sorry. Now back to the same topic. So let's get back on this. Let's look at this vote on the tariff. So how can we use this document now? So vote on the tariff of 1816 in the House of Representatives. Very good. Daniel, can you share for us?
Yeah, it's because the North wants it is a manufacturing economy. They want their own tariffs so they can protect their own manufacturing. The South is an agricultural-based economy, so of course they export it to the rest of the world. The problem is that the tariff makes it more expensive and therefore less desirable. And the South gets angry, and as a result, South Carolina would want to nullify one of their tariffs, and as a result, Jackson comes in.
Excellent. Very good. Very good. So one of the things that you could bring up here, I mean, your reasoning was perfect here. Your analysis was perfect here, right? Looking at the tariff of abominations. And I would have to double check, fact check, but I think that might fall outside the scope of evidence for the questions that you could bring up, right? But that would still work for context. You could use that for context, which works perfect, right? I think that would be a way of looking at that. But once again, so I'd say the best, your thesis would look something, so you could bring up Andrew Jackson, that would definitely work, right? But one of the things that you would want to bring up is with this document, how this shows tension is, there's a debate once again, looking at the tariff of 1816. While the New England and middle states are for it because of your manufacturing states, the states that would be against it would be the South, right? Sourcing. The way that you would use, I mean, this is a congressional record. You could look at the purpose of this, right? The purpose of the congressional record is to exemplify how certain votes would run in the House of Representatives in order to provide documents of future laws. Yeah, that would work. How would we score complexity in these? So this is a cause. So one of the things that you could bring up is the effect. So you could bring up the effect, right? So if you were to bring up the effect within that, that would score. But just be cautious about that. Those outside evidence, you want to make sure that you are using things that are within that time frame. And because this is, what I'm using here is just period 4, I'm 100% confident they're going to use things from a variety of periods because it's the AP exam, right? Questions. So the things that you would want to use for outside evidence, if you were to bring up cotton gin, that would work. If you were to bring up, what else do we say? The factory system, that will work. If you were to bring up, what else do we say for outside evidence? Because those are 2. I mean, we definitely had more. What are some things that we brought up? Tariff abominations would be a little bit later, so that would not necessarily maybe work. Louisiana Purchase, right? That would work. Okay. Immigrants, yeah. When you're looking at immigrants, that would work. Nullification, I would say double check the year for that, because I think that might be out of the scope of the question. Okay. Which court case? The Led Zeppelin song is as evidence. I mean, it's a great song, but I don't think it would, great band, but couldn't use it. Anything else? So there's a lot of varieties here that you could use for that, for outside evidence. So I hope this activity was useful. I want you to kind of get in the habit of this. So I'm going to give you guys a DBQ. All right, I'm going to give you a DBQ. I'm going to post it. Time yourself. I encourage you to time yourself. Don't be afraid about the final product of what you score. Do the best that you can. What you really want to make sure to do is that you immerse yourself in the process of it, because 45 minutes is going to be like, it's going to go by that quick. So big deal. I mean, if you score, so something less that you expected, big deal. We know what to work on, right? But if we just want to make sure that we're immersed in the process. If you are struggling, like let's say, for example, I want you to know, if this is you, if you are struggling with the DBQ and you are, actually, sorry, I'm just all over the place. Let me say this again. So if you feel like you're strong with the DBQ, do it for time. I encourage you all to do it for time. If you are absolutely lost, then what I recommend that you do is write me a note on that DBQ, say, I just want to practice the skill, and you did it with unlimited time, right? But just make sure you communicate with me, whether you do it timed or not. I say try to do it with time. But if you're like, this DBQ is new to me, I just want to get feedback on my skills, write me a personal note when you submit it, okay? Questions? But everyone do it. Everyone at least attempt it. I mean, this is only going to take 45 minutes. That's it, 45 minutes. I mean, that's like an episode of, Tiger King or whatever all you guys watch now, right? I don't know. But what we'll do after the AP exam, we'll be low key. We're still going to address some content. We'll watch some movies. We'll analyze some movies, right? We're not going to watch Tiger King. I did watch Tiger King. Not going to lie, it was one of those days and I was completely burned out. Like my wife and I, we watched it and it was just like, yeah, but we wanted to play those games. Oh, we'll figure out. We'll play some games. I'll have to go through those Jackbox games, make sure that there's a way that it'll be school appropriate. 1, 2, 3 movies. Is that a bootleg of movies that they have? Although, I mean, I'm telling you, I'm watching The Last Kingdom is a good historical. I mean, even though it's not all historically accurate. If you love, European history, you're looking at like the feudal system. I've been addicted to it. So 1, 2, 3 movies. I don't know. I'll see. I knew a teacher though that got fired once because they played a bootleg movie. So I don't want to get fired. Yeah. I mean, so I don't want to get fired. So free and definitely legal. I mean, I've got some good movies for us. We'll watch. Right. Technically, we're not in school. Yeah, we are. We are in school right now. This is very academic. More like investigating. Well, actually, for UIB kids, we got to get your IA started. So, which I've been doing on my free time. I've been grading IB IAs, right? And their IB is like a stickler for every little thing. Like I'm grading some kids right now from Europe, and or I think they're from Europe, just because they spell things more European. So, they'll do the OU instead of just the O's that we do. So, yeah. But that's all I got for you guys. So just no Zoom session. I'll post a DBQ. Just make sure you guys do it and continue to review. Watch the videos, do the readings, but go ahead, type here. And that is it for today. Thank you, guys. The History IA, yes, we will after the AP exam. See y'all. Enjoy. Be safe. Do something fun. Teresa is opposite of absent, just like she's always opposite of terrible. All right, send it my way. Luis, hope you're well. I'm going to save that in the chat. Hope it's a good one. Hope it's appropriate, Jessica. Otherwise, it's on record that it is you. I do use your mug quite often. I probably drink from this mug probably 2-3 times every week. So thank you very much. It's probably my favorite mug, just because it doesn't it's big, so it doesn't overflow. My coffee intake is all right, but that is it for today, guys. See y'all. All right, I gotta go get lunch. I'm gonna go make myself a sandwich. But I'll check out that video.